future.
First up, the saga that is Lydiard Park's future has taken another twist today. It's been confirmed that Chartridge, the company that runs the conference centre there, will be withdrawing from the site from April. Swindon Borough Council is currently in the process of transferring the running of the site to a community-run trust. And as the conference centre is one of the park's biggest sources of revenue, well, it poses real problems for those looking to take it on. BBC Watch's Chris Mace joins us now live from Lydiard Park. Chris.
Hi Ben, yeah, it's probably fair to say that Lydiard Park is the jewel in the crown for Swindon. Now, if you grew up in the town, there's a good chance this place might just mean something to you. And the reason for that is, to put it simply, there is something for everyone here, and it is gorgeous. People come to this park for the verdant rolling meadows, broccoli-like tree-dotted slopes, some gorgeous woodland, ideal for walking through with a Labrador, especially in the autumn. Now, can you think of a more pleasant way to spend an hour? And that's just the scenery. And as I came in this morning, people were already walking dogs through here in the dark, no lights on in the park, just because it is so wonderful here and a bit of an escape. Now, there's also the spectacular 18th century house with its ornate decorations, delicate high-walled gardens, classic tea rooms, and a juicy history of an estate existing here going right back to the time of the Domesday Book, would you believe, in 1086. And if you're taking the whole family, there's the kids' play area and jungle park to keep the smaller ones entertained. And if you haven't been to the barbecue area, well, the grass has been freshly cut on that rare 30-degree day with a couple of ginger ales, you're missing out on one of the northern parts of the county's very nicest experiences. And all of this splendour sits just a couple of hundred metres from the bright lights of Swindon itself. This place means a great deal to a great number of people, Ben, who, hearing this, will probably be a bit concerned about what the future holds for Lydiard Park.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for now. Well, one person definitely a bit concerned joins us in the studio now, Neil Hopkins from the Swindon Labour Group. Neil, good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
Any surprise that this has happened?
No surprise that the Swindon Borough Council administration have managed to mess this up. But let's face it, we're not party to all the information surrounding this. I think as far as the trust is concerned, I don't think they were terribly surprised that the trading position of Chartridge was deteriorating. So this was known about, or should have been known about. So a competent administration would have been on top of this. They would have seen it coming, and they would have taken steps to try to resolve the issues involved.
They're not here, of course. You use the term messing up. I mean, they're just biding their time, aren't they? They don't want to jump into anything too soon.
Well,
overcommit.
Well, that's an interesting one. They invited bids on this. Their preferred course of action was to actually let this go to private enterprise. The trust managed to put in a bid which beat all comers. And at the moment, they're the only show in town. They're made up of unpaid volunteers. They're very, very competent people, and they're the people the council should be talking to. But as I understand it, the trust have been trying to speak to the council since October. Meetings should have been arranged to resolve the issues around the cost of putting right the lack of maintenance that's been a feature of Swindon Borough Council's management of community assets over many years. There's a backlog of maintenance for Lydiard House, as I understand it, that runs to a very significant sum. And I think they're running away from those issues at this moment in time.
They say they're in discussions with Chartridge to minimise the impact on any bookings. In the meantime, the due diligence period with the Lydiard Park Trust continues.
We've seen the staff of Chartridge, long-standing loyal staff, made redundant at probably the worst time of year. It was Christmas when they got this news, and that's a pretty shabby way to treat people. If you wanted to keep this going, there was a possibility of engaging with Chartridge in some joint way to try to minimise the impact of the bookings. I can't help but wonder if it's a deliberate ploy from the council to try to remove the revenue that the trust and any other body would need to be able to take over the centre, so that they can do what they were originally, go back to plan A, which was that they wanted to let this go to private companies.
What do you make of the fact that Chartridge have moved to Marsh Farm? just along the way?
Well, they're a commercial organisation, so they have the right to make decisions that are in their own business interests. However, you can't help but recognise. I mean, I went to a function at Marsh Farm a couple of weeks ago, and you can't help but recognise that they're not going to be putting business into Lydiard House. They'd be putting business into Marsh Farm. So, I can understand why they've decided to withdraw, but my understanding is that because of the way the business has been run over a period of time, it was not actually doing very well. And those figures should have been known to the council. They were there. They should have been asking Chartridge how their trading position was going. They should have been on top of this, and they were not.
Looking at positives perhaps from this, I mean, an argument that the centre and the old hotel buildings are in need of a liquor pen or massive refurbishment. Now it's easier to crack on with that with no tenants in the building.
Well, that's a very interesting position or a very interesting situation, because in 2016, the council renewed the lease, which wasn't known to the trust at the time. They didn't declare this at the time, as I understand it, and they renewed the lease. Now, in any lease situation, before you leave a property, you're responsible for the dilapidations that have taken place during your watch. You'd have to do that. The BBC would have to do that if they left this building. So they leave the building as they found it. Now, there were 8 years of potential dilapidations to the buildings at Lydiard House. What did the council do? They entered into a new lease which absolved Chartridge of any responsibility for the dilapidations. There's probably at least £500,000 worth of dilapidations to the fabric of the conference facilities at Lydiard House that they basically, they gifted it to Chartridge. That's effectively what they've done.
What does the future hold?
Well,
we resolve it.
We have a trust here that is made up of very, very competent people. The council should get off their behinds, and they should actually engage properly with the trust. They should be talking to them about the issues of the maintenance, and they should be agreeing what needs to be put right. They should be looking at the situation in terms of the facilities and the revenue and find a solution. The problem is they've cut everything so heavily through their focus on austerity over the years that they probably don't have the capability to take the running of the conference centre in-house. But there are solutions. There are people out there who can fix this. And they need to find them.
You get that, don't you? They're fronting up to the austerity. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliched phrase now, but they're cutting their cloth accordingly.
They've been cutting their cloth accordingly for a number of years. Every single community asset they've had control of over the last 15 years in power, they've allowed to deteriorate. The health hydro, the leisure facilities, the 1930s Art Deco bowl in Town Gardens. None of those have had the proper maintenance that they should have had. And sometimes the maintenance is a key factor when people are taking it over. And that is part of the problem, as I understand it, in terms of Lydiard House. They have not done what they should have been doing. You wouldn't let the roof deteriorate on this building so that rain came in while you're on your programme. And the Conservative administration should have been attending to this over time. It's, you talk about cobbler and their shoes, They have not looked after a jewel in Swindon's crown, and I quote your own words.
You know what criticism flies there when anybody comes onto the show and just gives flack to someone in power. It's all very easy to say that, isn't it? You have to prioritise. Well, there might be those saying that, you're in cloud cuckoo land if you think you can just spend willy-nilly on everything that would be nice to spend money on.
I've spent 40 years in business, Ben. I'm a highly commercial individual. I've probably got more commercial understanding my little finger than most of the administration of Swindon Borough Council. But the issue, and I'm not being arrogant, but they're not very competent at handling these things. But the fact is, they could have been here today. They could have sat alongside me, and they could have answered these questions. So they're hiding things, or they're scared to come and say what the true position is.
Neil Hopkins, thank you, from Swindon Labour Group. Well, it's the fact that they didn't come in today. Swindon Borough Council refused to come on. That is true. They say it wouldn't be appropriate to go into details about Lydiard Park when they're still in due diligence with the trust. However, the statement, I've sort of touched upon it already, goes along the lines that Chartridge has chosen to end its occupation of the premises as it's entitled to do under the terms of the lease, and will stop operating at the Lydiard Conference Centre at the end of April. We are, they say, in discussions with Chartridge to minimise the impact on any bookings. In the meantime, that due diligence will continue. Now, your call, please, on this one, 03459 513366, and text 81333 and start your comments with the word Wiltshire. 7:16. With that and everything else, here's Claire Bay.
Good morning. A man's died after being struck